Memphis 48, UCLA 45. Quite the game, and certainly the best one of the afternoon thus far in week 3 of college football. Mark Rogers TV with instant analysis here. We do this all day on Saturday, so please subscribe to my YouTube channel because we feature some of the best bloggers in the industry, including Mike Regalado from Gojo Bruin, who does some bang-up UCLA football coverage for us. And, of course, join him there at Gojo Bruin. Mike, man, I tweeted you about halfway through the second half at some point to say, hey, would you like to jump on with some instant analysis? And I always tread lightly when there's a heartbreaking loss like that, but we appreciate you coming on. Man, it was a good game.
Yeah, it was definitely a shootout. Everyone predicted this. Everyone thought that with what's going on with both defenses, that they were definitely going to put up some points. I think the over-under was 71 points, and they surpassed that pretty well. If you like offense, this was a game for you. If you like defense, this was not a game for you, especially for UCLA fans who their defense has taken a lot of hits with injuries. You know, I'm not going to, sugarcoat it and say that that's excuses because, even younger guys, whoever's in there needs to learn how to tackle. And there were several plays where the UCLA just whiffed on tackles. Coverage was, not great. There were some good defensive plays, but it was, outdone by the mistakes on the defense. For example, I have my stats right here. Let me tell you, total yards, 559. That's an insane amount of yards to give up. And, surprisingly, only allowing Memphis 161 yards, that's where they were killing UCLA for most of the day. That was pretty good, but you can't really deny Anthony Miller, who was just, insane, had over 100 yards, and total Memphis had 398 passing yards. UCLA, good offensively, 633 total yards, 463 for Josh Rosen. But this wasn't Rosen's game, it seemed. He was rushed. The pass rush was really good from the Memphis side. That tells me two things. One, that UCLA still needs to work on their offensive line work, and Memphis was just really good at pressuring Rosen. Rosen gave up his first two interceptions of the year, very critical. One that went for a pick six. So he didn't have the best decision. He didn't make the best decisions, but at the same time, he was also pretty good. I mean, for one thing, he had a rushing touchdown. Was it 2 or 3 passing touchdowns? Either way, he's already surpassed his touchdown total from last season, and he only played 6 games last season. And so to do that in 3 games, that's pretty good. But you can't really put this on just Josh Rosen. It was just a lot of miscommunication, a lot of just things that didn't click. I'm sure the 90-degree weather and 80% humidity didn't help, but Memphis played in those exact same conditions too. So they just found a way to pull it out, and UCLA just kind of ran out of options, and just some bad decisions, bad defensive play that really did them in today.
Yeah, when you drop back to throw over 60 times, so Rosen let it loose 56 times, completed 34, you're going to not make perfect throws each and every time. But the mistakes were game-changing kind of mistakes. The one where he rolled to his right when he was pressured, threw all the way back across the field, and I forget who it was for UCLA when they showed the number of replays. He had his hand up. He thought he was open, but didn't understand the angle of defenders was going to make it almost impossible for Rosen to throw the ball all the way across the middle of the field and complete that. And there it goes, 60 yards the other way for a touchdown. Then the other one, obviously, there was miscommunication between Rosen and Lastly. Lastly was breaking to the pylon, going to the end zone. Rosen has a defender right in his gut, and he just thought he would throw the back shoulder, and there it goes back the other way again.
Yeah. There were, Lastly made some good catches, but he also had some drop balls, some that would have kept drives alive, or at least put him in, decent field position. But for the most part, this is a team that was 4-8 last year with, and they have glaring problems. So, it's not, they've done really well, and Rosen has been, otherworldly, but, he was a little bit exposed today, especially when you put pressure on him. And it's, UCLA just has to understand that teams are going to come after him, so they have to figure out different ways to put him in a position to succeed. And they did that at certain points, but the clock just ran down on the Bruins.
When you look at the defense, it appeared as though, as you alluded to off the top, that Memphis was going to run it down UCLA's throat. They showed the graphic early in the game. The Bruins, through 2 games, 127th in the nation in rush defense. We know what Texas A&M did to them through 3 quarters or so in the opener, and that Memphis is extremely good at running the football, and that's their game plan, to run first. They were successful early. It appeared as though UCLA, to a certain extent, adjusted to that, and then Memphis just turned it into a shootout. They started chucking the ball all over the place, starting sometime in the second quarter, and obviously had a number of issues in the secondary with missed tackles. It didn't help that about 10 or 12 minutes left in the game, Jalen Phillips left the game at defensive end for you. So Kenny Young didn't play.
Oh, yeah.
So you had some issues there.
Injuries definitely taking a toll. And Jalen Phillips, a guy who's been pretty explosive the first couple of games, didn't want to see him go down. So now it's a lot thinner now. But yeah, like you said, Boss Tagaloa didn't play in the first half. Not much that I saw, but he did play in the second half. There was that call against Oso Digizua, which didn't help, put Memphis in really good position after that penalty. So, there are a lot of young guys who are being expected to step up. Now, I do want to say, I forget his first name, but Noruka, he had some pretty good pressure on the quarterback. And I think he got maybe a few tackles for a loss or sacks. I got to go look at the stats appropriately. But he did a good job filling in for Tagaloa. But for the most part, you just can't excuse missed tackles, giving receivers that much open space and just allowing them to run on you like that.
And you had field position most of the game because they have a poor situation at kicker. They're a bit weak at place kicking. One of the reasons probably why they opted not to go with a freshman kicker trying the field goal with about 2 minutes to play to extend the lead to 6 points, and they tried that crazy fake field goal that was picked off in the end zone. And then also they had a number of punts that were short punts that set up UCLA well, while UCLA, you guys really are strong in the punt game where the coverage was fine. The punt game in sync for UCLA, forcing good field position there. So the rushing game appeared to come to life too. You ran the football pretty well.
Yeah, that was pretty good to see, especially since UCLA really doesn't have a number 1 back. Still going by committee, but Brandon Stevens, the sophomore, he had some pretty good runs. Bolu participated, and it was it's going to be interesting to see what happened to Nate Starks. He was carted off in the first half, and no word on what exactly happened to him. And the fact that Sosa Jamabo apparently didn't even make the trip. That's going to thin out the running back depth. So right now we just got to see exactly what position UCLA is in heading into next week against Stanford, at Stanford. So that doesn't get any easier. So it could be pretty brutal. It could be close. We'll see next week. We're going to do a lot of coverage, preview at Gojo Bruin. But right now, I think it's trying to figure out exactly what is going on with UCLA. And, the coaches definitely have to pinpoint what's going on and make some changes really quick.
I'll say one thing, Mike. It's an interesting team. You've got one of the best and most talented quarterbacks in college football. You have some playmakers that and a little bit more speed on the outside than what you had early in his career and what we've talked about in recent years. The defense has some extremely talented players, but obviously some severe issues with some missed tackles, with some blown coverages in the secondary, and getting pushed around on the ground up front. So it's an intriguing team, a very flawed team, but a very talented team at the same time. Yeah. And they go to Stanford, and we saw that the Cardinal are very good, very strong, very talented, a legitimate top 15 team, but they've got their flaws as well, as were exposed by USC. Again, as Mike mentions, just go to Gojo Bruin. You can catch all the post-game analysis there throughout the week, as I'm sure they will run through the post-mortem of the Memphis loss, a difficult task going cross-country, a noon Eastern time game, 9 o'clock Pacific time in taking on the Memphis Tigers, a team, as they mentioned many times during the broadcast, has a habit of pulling off these type of upsets, the likes of Houston and Ole Miss in recent years. And today it was Josh Rosen and UCLA. So catch Mike on Gojo Bruin as he and the staff will set you up for the big Stanford game coming up in Palo Alto on Saturday. Mike, we appreciate you jumping on here.
Thanks, Mark. Thanks for having me.